We got the rear firewall painted that you saw the last time I was shooting. Got the fuel cell mounted up. This is its position, and now I get to figure out where I want to run the wiring. So that's the DT12 connector that's going to run, and I'm probably going to take it, run it across and down and around, and so like you can see here, that way everything's kind of neat and tidy. I really hate when people put cars together, whether they're road cars or race cars or whatever, and it's just not tidy, and there's just shit everywhere. I hate that, so I'm trying not to do that. And yes, it takes more time because I want it to look nice. Am I wasting time? I'm definitely losing time because I'm trying way too hard. You can see here, this is how I like to do all of my wiring, as much as I can. And that is called a concentric twist, and what that allows is the actual bulk of the wiring to stay uniform in shape, especially once you get it all wrapped up in the loom, or in this case you put the heat shrink loom on top. The only detrimental thing about doing concentric wiring like this is if you have to add stuff in later, because most of the time the harnesses are permanently sealed, you kind of have to add it externally. So in this case, we have a bunch of spares that we added. This is going to be the loom for the engine bay. So we have 12 connectors, and not all of them are actually utilized for components in the engine bay. What they are spare circuits, so that if I do add stuff later, I have somewhere to hook it up to. If I add anything to the engine bay outside of what's already in there, then I have something able to run it, including 2 high amp circuits to support up to 60 amp. And for the rear, I plan on adding nitrous to the car, so I have a circuit in there that's open. It's not being utilized right now, but it's going to be powerful enough to run a bottle heater. And then eventually I'm going to have to add in another connector and a little sub loom to run like a bottle pressure sensor. But that's easy enough. I won't bore you with the details. And to show you again what I was talking about with bend radius, you know, if you just took all of these wires without cabling them together like this, as you start to flex and move things, they would start to pull away from each other. It would start to deform, where this, you can have like a 2.5 degree bend radius and it doesn't deform the wires on the inside, which is probably the best part about wiring stuff like this. I'm not going to show you how to do it. There are resources all over the internet that have courses to teach you how to do this, the concepts behind it, why it's used. I like it for the tidiness, and I like it for the service life. This stuff will last you a lot longer if you make it properly the first time than just wires exposed and kind of zip tied together, chafing against stuff. So I'm going to put in some clips and cutaways so you can see what this looks like underneath. I have here this, I don't know if you can see it. This is how I make the wiring for this car. It's a triple twisted core, you can't really see it, and then you lay it all out in this pattern, so it's super flexible. You can bend it in tight directions, and etc., etc. Ouch. So these are a little hard to work with just because you have to hold them in place. I really gotta stop doing that. When you're setting these boots, you hold them in place so that when you hit them with the heat gun, they don't rotate. And you really gotta wear gloves if you're handling this. I'd also recommend that you don't touch the boot too much after you've set it, because aside from it being like incredibly hot, it's also super easy to like make a mark on it. So try not to do that as much as possible. But other than that, it's a nice product. They're a little bit on the pricey side, so you want to not make the mistake. If you do make one, you have to cut it open and try again. So if it's your first time using it, maybe buy a couple. It shouldn't be too bad for you. Some of you might be wondering why I did this in the first place. I'm complaining about time. Why am I spending the time on it if the car worked before? I did not do a good job the first time I wired this car. I think I spent like maybe 5 hours on it, but it was not up to the standard. Now, having these new skills and having worked in motorsport professionally, I wanted to bring those same techniques into my own car, even just to keep my skills sharp. So with the fact that I had to add a bunch of stuff to the car, like this has a fuel level sender in it now, adding in a defroster, adding in a power inverter, all of these things, moving the battery box back into the cabin, you can see that I really wanted to make things as tidy as possible to reflect a little bit of care and forethought in the car. So these relay boxes actually used to sit right above where the ECU is, and once you get the dash in, it's actually impossible to service. If you look at any of the GT touring cars, whatever, you'll actually see that they put the entirety of the electrical system for their race cars in the passenger floor area because you can open the door and get to stuff. Most of those cars don't have passenger seats, and they'll put either like a cool suit box in there that's easy to change, and then some electrical stuff if they have to add stuff in. Like if it's a car that is built in the race shop for racing, then you'll have your ECU, PDM, anything that would be related to running the car and the electrical system mounted in the footwell like that, so that it can be changed, serviced, and inspected without having to disassemble the car. And I was trying to think to myself, where am I going to put this? I didn't want to put one in the trunk. I didn't want to put one in the engine bay and then have two. Like, I wanted to consolidate them so that they were in all the same spot, easy to get to. And the passenger seat's going to go. It ends like right about here, so the passenger will never actually hit that with their legs. And I put the battery here behind the passenger. Finally, it's big. It barely fit in the spot. I have to fit my fire bottle. I have to fit my fire bottle in there as well. I mocked it all up and made it in place. So yeah, it's a tight squeeze. I was trying to think a little bit about how I was going to distribute the weight in the car. I wasn't happy with how the weight was when we scaled the car in the first place. So with all the extra cabling that we added, and then the battery, then the fire bottle and the bigger cell, and then all the relays here on the passenger area, I'm hoping to add a little bit more, help correct that cross weight in the chassis now. If I had to guess, this is somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 or 70 pounds between the cabling and the relays and the battery box by themselves, and the fire bottle. The fuel cell doesn't really count because it spans across the entirety of the car. I got this mostly all the way done. I'm super proud of it, and it's been a lot of work, so take a look. All of this is going to be in front of the passenger seat. I'm going to take a finished picture. I'm not going to say excuse the mess because it's awful, but yeah, this has been a real pain in the tuchus, and I'm excited to be at the end of it for the interior stuff. I'm going to get the dash back in and show you guys what it all looks like, all buttoned up and clean. So I called in some help, and I have really good friends, and I'm also scumbagging them because this is a lot more work than I think they realized. That's Dominic. That's Andrew. Fable, the man, the myth, the fable. These guys crewed for me at the last Gambler I went to, and I've known them for a very long time. I remember when they actually started drifting, and now they drive better than I do, so I should just retire and light this car on fire.
I'll light it up.
I think we should push it down the driveway.
Yeah. On the dollies.
On the dollies. Awesome. And let me put the insurance back on it first. What happened? It's totaled. Look what it's rumpled. Something happened.
I fall and I can't get up.
All right, let's fucking spin this thing around. So Andrew is going to work on some of the mechanical stuff. Steering rack he's going to change. Might have him start putting the motor back together. He hates LSs, so this is going to be great to watch, or he'll sabotage me. But the joke's on him because he's going with me to Drift Week, so he also has to help me fix it. You should see the look on his face. And Dominic is going to help me wire up the rest of the chassis. We got a lot of work ahead of us. Nick is coming at some point too. He's going to help with the motor stuff. I don't know when he's going to get here, but... So we didn't get as much done on the motor as I would have liked. We didn't get anything done on the motor. I forgot to order the oil pump O-rings because I'm smart. I thought I ordered them from Summit and I didn't see them in my parts. I don't have a history where I bought any of them. So Dominic got to making this rear chassis harness loom. So that's going to come down. I'm going to terminate that into here. That's my project for right now. Then I'm going to do the front and then finish up the dash stuff and we should be done. Probably going to do about 10 hours today just in the wiring, but I should be able to finish this up. And then next week I can finish the car, get the motor in. So it's been a very long evening. Before I show you guys what it all looks like, this is really important, something that I want to tell all of you, that it can be tough. I'm a regular dude. I don't have crazy resources. And yeah, my friends were here. I think they were here till like 12:30 helping me with this. And this is the aftermath of all that. I've made a lot of progress, like I was saying earlier, but I wanted to show you that this is what it looks like in real life. It's not always pretty. It's not always easy. It's not always neat. You can try to work neat. I tried to, but I've just been feeling super overwhelmed and I needed to rush myself a little bit. So I spent a lot more time just focusing on the work. And now that I'm done for the night, I'm going to clean up. My hands hurt and I keep making silly mistakes. So I'm just going to call it. So let me get cleaned up and I'll show you guys what we actually have here. I feel so much better after arranging the garage. I have all this stuff sorted out. And let me show you guys what we got. Hit the light. Bow. So as you can see, this is going to be, that lead right there is going to be for the fuel level sender. Oof, sorry. What else? Comes down. Little standoff made from zip ties there so that the harness doesn't chafe on anything. I'm going to tie it off into another spot down here somewhere. Runs down and in. Ooh, goodness, I just broke all of you. Runs down and in, and then here is where things got a little complicated. I had to make like a complex, kind of looks like an octopus, but what's under there? Those are parallel splices that everything kind of tees off and runs down from. And the point of that is to give this all some flexibility and expandability. And if the time comes that I need to lengthen something or move something, I can cut open that cap, undo the clips, undo the splices that are there and run longer wire or repair stuff. Especially since all of this is so flexible, I didn't want to make something with such without a lot of give in the wire, so that if I were to hit something or if I have to redo something or tube the rear, I can just move this around without having to modify the harness any further than it has been. We also have a couple spares in here, like there's a spare for underglow if I decide to add that in, which I'll probably add in with work lights as well, so they're on the same circuit because they're LEDs, they don't take up a lot of amp. And there's also a spare in here for nitrous. I have a high amp circuit in here for a nitrous bottle heater. The only thing I wasn't able to add was a nitrous bottle pressure sensor, because that would be coming from the ECU, and I'm going to give it its own harness to kind of stay out of this one, because it's used different wire for that stuff, and it's a 5-volt reference instead of 12-volt power. So there's a bunch of different things that have to get added in for that, but that's at a different point. It's here if I need it. I have it capped off. Again, cut the cap off, clean up the ends and put some connectors on there. If you're seeing this and it looks like I'm repeating myself, it's because I'm skipping between when I actually make real progress, and I don't because this wiring is super tedious and it looks the same. Anyway, this is what we have so far. It is a mess, but I'm almost done. I finished up the driver's side. I'll show you in a second. Actually, it's coming up pretty good. This is the sub harness for my switch panel that's already loomed. This is the sub harness for my what is this, fuel level sender. This is my turn signals and fuel level sender. This is one of my fan outputs. I got the other ones there. This is the switch panel. That's all done. This here is the main switches. That one is the ignition switch, and this is just a little breakout that I made for the brake light switch. And then we have the cluster. That's all done and made. This is all pinned out and chained together, marked, documented, etc. So you can imagine it's kind of overwhelming, and I'm very stressed out. I'm so happy with how this came out. You have no freaking idea. So here's the fuse boxes. Like I said, let me grab the light. Goes up there. There's a few bulkheads. All the connectors are now labeled. Can't really read that, but it's all labeled as to what the assignments are. Boxes are all labeled with the green paint. It runs up onto this way. Let's go around to the other side. Oh, this is the battery box. See, I wasn't kidding. I wasn't kidding when I said it was a tight fit. This is a giant Optima, and the fire bottle squeezes right in behind it. Cables run up that way. A new line for the fire suppression. This is the not final position for all the fuel cell stuff, but I got the vent line done at least. There's the loom and the way it runs now. I think I showed you last time. I had to add a couple things. We forgot to add in the line for the fuel level sender, so that's all fixed. And this is what the rear Lexan looks like. I'm not really happy with how that came out. That's probably my least favorite part of the whole project. And there's a couple waves. I'll show you. I'm not going to hide it because it is what it is. I mean, you can see it's a pretty big wave right there. I think I'm going to try and hide it by making a, if you could say, sandwich plate almost to go on the edge. It's going to go like 1 inch about here. You're going to make it out of aluminum, and it'll help just keep this flat. I keep saying things are going to be quick. This is taking me way longer than I've wanted it to. And if you don't guess by now, I really dislike working on cars. I just happen to be good at it. At least I think I'm good at it. I don't fucking know. That is what we have for the interior. The fuel level gauge is in. You can see that there. Stacked to match the dash. A wideband. The turn signals and all that's working again. And this is the really frustrating thing about doing any interior wiring, any of that, is you do a good job and then it looks like nothing happened. So, I mean, you take that for a win, I suppose. I wish there was a neater way for me to pull that off. Maybe I should have got some like angled battery lugs or something so that the cabling stayed all tight together. But the only last bit I need to add to the interior for the test day, I think, is just the rip cord that normally goes here for the fire suppression system. And then the interior is complete. Obviously the seats and all that got to go back in, but it's pretty obvious. So we got 5 days till test day. Nick.
Hi.
That lovely human gave up his Sunday to come help me with this bucket of shit car because I'm so behind. He put the motor together, got the clutch on it. We ran into a couple of silly snags, but he handled them no problem. I'm going to get the front cradle off the motor, or off the car, so it'll just slide right in.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it works.
Easier that way?
Oh, yeah, dude, this thing just goes. Yeah, no, if we get this, if we get this out of here, it'll be no problem. So one of my favorite things about this car that I did was I made the front cage, or front cradle, as I said before, removable, and it's super quick. You take off those there, and then on the front you have what would have been the headlight mounts. So you do that, and this whole thing comes up as one piece. Take the radiator out, and you can slide the motor in and out super easy too. So we'll go do that real quick. Nick, see? That's all that holds the front of the car together, plus the headlight stays, and then that's it.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Gotta think ahead when you put a car like this together, otherwise it'll bite you in the buns. YouTube magic.
The best kind of magic.
Motors in. They always come out easier.
Yeah, that
Always-
they do.
I took this thing out by myself, no problem.
What a fight.
Putting this in, problem.
Big problem.
And
It's happy now.
it makes you question whether or not your car is destroyed. Put it back together, everything's twisted. You're like, holy crap. I think it's just these bushings are tired. These cars take a lot of abuse, you know?
Yeah, something like that.
So there it is. We're in. I still have a lot of work to do, but the wiring is complete. Motor's in the car. It should have everything it needs to run. You just got to find a starter pin and put it all back together. I'm so understating the amount of work still left, but it'll be quick because everything was already made for the car. Just got to swap one door and that's it. So, toodles. We got the old girl finished up. Dave and I finished the car one night. He and I went and did the vinyl, got the new panels mounted. Everything is a mess, but I finished loading up the car and all my tools and everything at 3:30 in the morning. Testing went incredibly well, better than I would have thought. Here's the car. In all her glory. The timetable between the test day and the shoot for Super Street and then leaving for Drift Week is almost non-existent. The car is loaded up with all the stuff that we need for Drift Week. I mean, there's parts everywhere in here, but I don't really have much to change or add. I mean, we did the muffler, we did a tail light mount, or license plate mount, excuse me. Redid the alignment just to make the car a little less aggressive so we're not chomping through tires as fast. Somebody's having a good time. Real headlights, which is super weird for me. So I want to take the second to thank my partners for this trip and for making all of this a possibility. Dream Tank Soap, we have Kansai Wheels, ISR Performance, Fantastic Voyages Unlimited. He did my livery. Function Motorsports with the fuel cell. I mean, without these guys, this trip would have not been a reality for me, and I wouldn't have the kind of reliability and quality that I have on the car now. I really like to put a lot of effort and heart into this car, into this program. My team does the same, and it feels really nice to have partners with quality components, quality products that also showcase the same kind of passion that we have. So everybody I'm working with has come on super last minute in previous seasons, put some faith in a program that they had no reason to, and I'm very blessed and very thankful for them. If you see something you like, go check them out. You guys know what to do. Thanks so much for your support, and wish me the best of luck on Drift Week.